Welcome to the Magic Mindfulness Podcast, where we sprinkle a little bit of magic into your daily life. I'm your host, Rachel Hupp, and I'm so excited to set out on this mindfulness journey with you. As someone who's experienced the transformative power of mindfulness firsthand, I am here to guide you through the wonders of living a more mindful and joyful life. This podcast is your space for embracing mindfulness and cultivating a deeper connection to yourself and the world around you. Together, let's uncover the magic within and sprinkle a little extra sparkle into your day. Join me as we explore practical tips, inspiring stories, and transformative practices to help you thrive in every aspect of your life. Let's dive in and embrace the magic of mindfulness together. Welcome to the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. I'm Rachel, and I have a very special guest with me today, Christina Kunkle. We met several years ago through a women's networking event, and then eventually went on to work with her as my life coach and Reiki practitioner. And so, Christina, if you would, just give us a quick bio, introduce yourself.
I'm Christina Kunkle, and I'm the founder and CEO of Synergy Life and Wellness Coaching. I am someone who is highly sensitive in a high-tech world, and I am a heart-centered high achiever. I am a recovering perfectionist, or maybe I'll just claim that I'm actually an imperfectionist now. I like that a little bit better.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So I've been in Synergy Life and Wellness Coaching now since 2008. I can't hardly even believe it's been that long.
Time flies when you're having fun.
It really does.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. So we worked together several years ago, and when you were my coach, actually unexpectedly, you ended up guiding me through the most difficult time in my entire life. And, at the time we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into, but on a different note, one of the things that really stuck with me, one of the reasons that I came to you is because I was just feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and kind of fried and burned out. And we had a conversation that really stuck with me where you were talking about this evolution from the chief everything officer, CEO, to the chief energy operator. And it just had such a huge impact on my life and on my mindset. And I thought that that might be powerful for you to share today if you want to get into that a little bit.
I would love to. It's a tool that is really helpful to be able to contrast who we are being. So one of the first things that I think is important for everyone to know is that we as women oftentimes are carrying such heavy responsibilities, such heavy expectations. We want to work, we want to have a family, we want to be present to both things. We want to have creative outlets, we want friendships. And sometimes, well, I should speak for myself. I was a registered nurse by trade and worked almost 20 years in emergency medicine. So I came into the field of nursing because my parents were both nurses. I was familiar with the profession. I'm a very caring, nurturing person. So becoming a nurse seemed very natural. But what I recognized very quickly was I was overwhelmed by the energy of nursing and giving, and especially the crisis oriented environment of emergency medicine. And I didn't at the time realize how highly sensitive I was in terms of how my nervous system was wired. And so I became very exhausted and depleted and overwhelmed. I also, at the time, was more of a people pleaser. And so I took on more and more and more without perhaps asking for help or, saying no when I could have said no, but just said yes because it seemed like, well, if I can do it, I should do it. And if I did it once, I should be able to do it again. So what I found was I wasn't managing my energy very well. I was in what I call now an untrained, highly sensitive person.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And what over time, with burnout after 20 years of nursing, what that taught me, what those red flags for me were wake up calls. And that is what brought me to what I do now and why it's so important to share these tools with women like you who are also really loving, caring, compassionate women in service to other people, giving of your heart, giving of your soul. And how is it that you can serve others from a reservoir, like from a well of goodness, of energy, of balance, and still care for yourself and have balance in your life as well. So the path to burnout caused autoimmune symptoms. It was very significant for me. It stopped me in my tracks. And the things that I'm going to share from this, what I call self-assessment, it's like you are the CEO of YOU.
Yes, I love that.
Every single person is a CEO of themselves. And whether it's acknowledged and by design and on purpose, or whether it is by default and just happens, to us, we are still either one kind of CEO or the other. So we are either the chief everything officer or the chief energy operator. So if I had known this, if someone had this tool and they shared this with me when I was going into nursing, I graduated with my registered nurse degree at 19.
Oh, wow.
I skipped my senior year of high school, went straight into nursing school, didn't take any summers because
Wow.
I really needed to get out and to start to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And if someone, when I was 19, 20, 21, had shown me that I needed to factor my self-care in to the equation of helping others, it would have made the biggest difference.
It's powerful, isn't it? We always think that we don't have time for ourselves. We give and give and give until we're depleted. But like you said, that intentional self-care, we can give from this reservoir.
I just turned 58,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So over the past decades of learning and growing and expanding and evolving very intentionally and on purpose, I'm happy to say, right, I'm a highly trained, highly sensitive.
That's amazing.
And to be in a position where I'm more of an observer of myself and I know how to navigate when I get off center,
Yep.
it's really helpful. And so these tools that I've created, this one in particular, are really helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it like red flags of toxic success that lead to burnout, right? That's the chief everything officer.
Yeah.
And then green flags of balanced success, which is the chief energy operator. And your listeners can download this PDF and take the checklist and check the red flags, the green flags, just to kind of see where they are in the realm of heading toward burnout, because many women are really feeling stuck, like in the fast lane of life.
Yes, I've encountered the same thing. I've experienced it myself and I've encountered it with the women that I work with.
Yeah, some motherhood, midlife, work, caring for aging parents, all of the stressors.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine 4 silhouettes of women, the one on the left is a silhouette, which is an outline of a woman. And when you're looking at that silhouette, there are all of these holes that are throughout. It looks like kind of like Swiss cheese,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
The woman beside her, moving to the right, still has some of that diffuse, energy pattern, lots of, space in between. And then the one to her right has filled in quite a bit and just looks more solid. And then the one on the far left is anchored and grounded and centered. That is like the evolution from the state of being the everything officer to the energy operator. They both are CEO of
Yes.
YOU, but they're very different types of CEOs. So if I could share some of the characteristics and some of the traits and things that might be going on between each of them.
I think that would be wonderful. I think that would be
Does
so
that sound good?
helpful. Yes, because so we can bring in that mindfulness and that self-awareness so that we can, from a place of non-judgment, from a place of self-compassion, kind of understand our baseline and see how we can evolve from there.
I love that you said that, the self-compassion piece, because we have the self-awareness tools like this, and we can't skip over the self-awareness into self-compassion and loving ourselves, despite the areas that pop up for us that we may feel like, oh my goodness, I do that. Oh my goodness, I have that. Oh my goodness, I feel that. Therefore, I'm going to feel even worse about myself because I need to get it together. I thought I was further along than that. I should know this by now. So it's the awareness, and then it's self-compassion, and then it's stepping into self-leadership. And that's what this kind of awareness tool does. Gives us a snapshot. We infuse some love around it, and then we figure out what's the next best step for me to take. So the first thing I will do is contrast the characteristic of being in your conditioned self, the social self. That is one of the red flags. It is necessary for us to have a social self. It's the part of us that is out in the world, engaging, communicating, doing our thing. It's also the part of ourself who is pretending oftentimes to be a certain way to gain approval or validation. The conditioning that we go through, that teachers tell us we should act like or be like, that parents train us to act like or be like, that friends expect us to act like or be like, because of, you know, our social circles or our religion or, our work, roles or whatever. It's the conditioning and the social self that is a little bit external. And that's okay to a point, but there's a tipping point that spills over oftentimes into losing who we are.
Yes.
So the opposite of that is our essential self. It's our authenticity. Our authentic self is often what many of my clients have. They have traded that in for achievement, being validated, being accepted, being enough, or what they consider that must look like. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And I like how you say we've traded that authenticity for this approval, because that's exactly what it is. We lose ourselves in this conditioning.
Absolutely. The second contrast would be that the state of the chief everything officer is more disconnected from herself, first from a power greater than herself and from other people. And oftentimes is fiercely independent. I do not want to ask for help because that makes me look weak.
I can so relate to that. That's exactly where I was several years ago. Yes.
And if I'm weak, therefore I'm vulnerable. And when I'm vulnerable, I feel very unsafe. Or when I have felt vulnerable in the past, bad things have happened. So therefore, I will do anything to just grit my teeth and bear it, right? Do it myself.
Yeah.
Versus the chief energy operator who knows that she thrives in community. She's connected to herself with self-awareness, self-love, self-leadership. She's connected that way because she knows who she is. She is a heart-centered, purpose-driven woman who is guided by her core values. And when I ask women what their values are, there's often a conversation around that is like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure. Like I've kind of gotten away from thinking about it. Like, what is it that I value? What kind of person do I want to be while I'm doing what I'm doing? While I'm out there achieving and ticking off the boxes and climbing the ladder of what I think is success, am I guided by, what's outside of me? Or am I being guided by my core values? So she's very connected to herself, to a power greater than her, which is the language of intuition.
Yes.
She can hear her higher self speak. And she knows the value of taking that time to connect in with herself before she goes out into the world, because it's easy to get distracted and get lost in the minutia and in the busyness, right?
It is. It's so easy.
So the community, that feeling of belonging to herself, to a power greater than herself, to other people through community. And for our tribe, it's sisterhood, right?
Yeah.
There are many different ways to be nourished. For the Synergy Success Circle, community, tribe, sisterhood, it's about first, love yourself, first lead yourself, each one be one, like whole, healed, and complete within herself.
Yes.
Each one teach one what she's learned through transparency or through who she's being. And then each one reach one, each one teach one. So you're be one, reach one, teach one.
I love that. That's so powerful.
Yeah. And it's like a great way to explain the energy of being held, holding space for each other as we grow. It's very, very unique and very important. And I see you doing that. Like when I'm taking your yoga classes, I see you nurturing other women and whoever's there. I see you not just being in a role of a teacher, but you're a solopreneur. Your heart is in the work you do, and that shows.
I hope so. I hope so, because it's definitely a heart project, passion project.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's why I'm drawn to you. That's why I appreciate you. That's why I said yes to this, is because, I've always felt deeply connected to you as a soul sister.
yes, yes.
You
I
know?
feel like we hit it off right away. We just had a lot in common. I remember so many synchronicities in our meetings together. And when you were my coach, I just remember so many little synchronicities, and like we were just always on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. So the third one is whether or not we are fear-based. And when we're fear-based, we tend to be like a little bit more focused on our ego needs. The ego's not bad. It's our everyday mind, right? But what ego stands for me is like edging God out,
Ooh, that's a good one.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's about lack. There's never enough. So it's kind of like a fixed mindset. We're closed to learning, and we're always feeling like, there's just not enough. There's not enough to go around. Versus a growth mindset, which is spirit led. And then it leads us more into an abundance mentality versus scarcity. So that's another, contrast.
Yes.
The fourth one would be whether or not we feel like we're anxious, kind of like in the panic zone, we're kind of our energy scattered out here, or whether we're calm in the learning zone and our energy is kind of contained. We have emotional regulation and containment too in this space. The chief energy operator knows um, that she's responsible for the energy she brings into the spaces around her and is very mindful about that. And so, whether that anxiety is brought into places or whether the calm is brought into places, there's no judgment, it's just observation,
Yes.
and it's just an awareness that helps us navigate, and we can reset and like bring ourselves back into a calm state quicker and quicker and quicker as we practice how to do that.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Once I gained this awareness, I could sense when I was getting more scattered, and over time, I got much better at bringing myself back to center.
Yeah. So the chief everything officer is often overwhelmed.
Yes.
Yeah, overwhelmed. I am so overwhelmed is the phrase that I hear the most often. And what that really is correlating to is a nervous system that is dysregulated, a nervous system that is in um, high activation in the sympathetic space of the nervous system, either fight or flight. So it's either fighting, fleeing, it's either freezing, which is my favorite, you know or
Yeah.
fawning, like let me just make everyone else happy, you know um I'll do anything, just don't be mad at me. And so those states are all sympathetic overload, so the nervous system is completely overwhelmed, and we're not meant to be in that state forever, like chronic long term. That really burns our adrenals out, and it causes our immune system to crash. So it's an overwhelmed nervous system versus a nervous system that's regulated and nourished. And being able to have a nervous system that is regulated, the chief energy operator knows how different foods make her feel, how different activities or exercises either you know enliven her or drain her. So it's a matter of observation and practice.
Yeah.
So the nervous system, with the chief energy operator being nourished, is more in the rest and restore mode. And when a crisis occurs, she can get into the sympathetic drive and then come back down to neutral a
Yes.
little easier.
Yes.
The next one would be physical symptoms of dis-ease. When you are the chief everything officer, it's almost like everything hurts. you know, it's
Yeah.
like the physical symptoms of your body saying, again,
Yeah.
or isn't it nap time?
Yes.
Or, you know, did we eat today? it's like illness or dis-ease, any symptom that is uncomfortable, that is painful. It's a red flag. It's a part of us that is like, hey, I'm over here, pay attention. But
Yeah.
oftentimes we keep pushing through. We don't want to hear it. Ain't nobody got time to slow down.
Nope. No.
Have you seen that meme? Like, ain't nobody got time for that.
I have seen that one, yes. Oh my
But
goodness.
the chief energy operator knows that, with physical health and well-being, there are very different routines and habits and practices that she has on purpose added into her schedule as appointments with herself. Like, they're that important.
They are.
Take breaks, eat lunch, go outside, get fresh air, talk to a friend, all the things that bring us into, creating oxytocin and connection, creating serotonin and feeling, really good, creating endorphins and getting moving, or creating dopamine and getting that reward boost for our chemistry in our body oftentimes, just thrives and craves that.
Oh, yes.
So that's a contrast there. The next one would be whether we are just surviving in the crap cycle, which is the cycle of reactivity and panic. We're very reactive in the crap cycle in the red flag zone. There's also a crap cycle in the green flag zone, and that is the cycle of resilience and peace, And I just did that for fun. I made that up as a contrast. I love to teach through contrast, if you can't tell.
I think that's perfect. And as you were saying that, I realized when I came to you several years ago to work with you, I was in the first crap cycle. And now I'm firmly entrenched in the second crap cycle. And I didn't like, it's just who I am now.
Right.
But
Right.
it took all that inner work, and practice and self-awareness to get here. But I feel so much better now.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That is awesome. And the next one is really important. I think it might be the most important as it relates to the spirals and the loops we can get into that really are downward spirals or upward spirals. So downward spiral, this chief everything officer is the downward spiral to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
That is unhealthy patterns, personality patterns, patterns of behaving or habits that are oftentimes unconscious to us until we begin to do this work and become conscious. Until we become aware and conscious, we can't fix anything. So there's no judgment as I read these. Okay.
Right.
The first one is, and see if you don't resonate or have any like ahas in your own work. Okay, so these really create ruptures and conflicts within yourself and with other people. So perfectionism,
Mm-hmm.
procrastination, overcommitting, overworking, overgiving, often from lack of boundaries, people pleasing, fear of conflict, being critical of ourselves, the self-talk, or critical of other people, being someone who is always comparing like your own experience to like what you see as the highlight reel of someone else's life,
Mm-hmm.
comparing, being overly competitive and unforgiving. Those are some of the relational red flags.
I can relate
The
to so
green,
many of those.
I know,
And
right?
so many of my clients as well. Yes.
Yeah. So the green flags would be those relationship patterns that really foster repair. It's not that ruptures don't occur in relationships, because that's how we learn.
Right.
And that's how we grow. But these patterns and habits, they foster repair, and they foster intimacy with ourselves, with our higher power, with other people. So it would be about having flexibility, having initiative, being willing to say no, and maybe disappointing other people. Oh, taking self-care breaks, setting boundaries that are clear, but protecting the boundaries with love. We don't have to be aggressive and mean, but with love.
Yes.
The other would be speaking her truth and telling the truth, being authentic. So often, I think we tend to tell other people what we think that they want to hear.
Yes. I think that's part of our conditioning. Yes, you're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
but that's not really in service to anyone.
Nope.
Nobody, anywhere. Being compassionate toward ourselves and towards other people, and then showing grace. So
Yes.
those are the contrasts between toxic success and balanced success. So, my PDF has the way that you can kind of look at those and then circle all the red flags and the green flags and add them up and kind of see which things resonate the most with you and maybe how they're affecting you.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. It's just such a powerful contrast to see the difference.
Yeah.
So I will link this PDF in the show notes here. So it'll be right below. If you're watching on the video, you'll have it right beneath this. If you're listening to us, you'll have the link right below the audio.
Wonderful.
If someone takes the assessment and they find that they are more on the chief everything officer side, if they're feeling that their success is not feeling balanced, what would you say would be the first step they could take to kind of begin to steer themselves in the other direction?
I would have to say the first step would be to consider, there's so much sometimes that we don't know,
Yep.
And so taking the first step to get curious, I would say curiosity. And I would welcome anyone who is curious to reach out and connect with me. You can do that through my website, and then you'll also have a link to connect with me and just give me your name and your information and create a connection that way. I would love to chat. I mean, I give a complimentary session with those who are considering how these things are showing up and what they may want to do if they're open to learning more through coaching. But the curiosity without judgment would be the first thing, the most important thing, whether it's someone that reaches out to me or reaches out to, anywhere, shows up in any of our circles, right? Of growth. It would be curiosity without judgment, and you don't have to do it alone.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. It was so powerful to see the contrast between this chief everything officer and the chief energy operator, and to know that we have the power to steer our path towards that chief energy operator side. Do you have any final messages or takeaways for listeners that you want to leave them with today?
We're here. I mean, it would be that we're here for a reason. And all of the things that we get stuck in, they don't have to be permanent. And you can use absolutely anything that you've gone through or that has happened to you to move forward.
Yes, I have learned that the hard way. You were so right. You were so right.
So have I.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It has been such an honor to have you here today. And I will link to all of this in the show notes as well.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Magic Mindfulness podcast. Until next time, remember to trust yourself, trust the universe, and embrace the magic of mindfulness. And if today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe so you can receive regular doses of inspiration and practical tips for your mindfulness journey. Be sure to share this episode with a friend who could use a sprinkle of magic in their day. And don't forget to like this episode and leave a comment sharing your thoughts and experiences. Your support means the world to me as I continue spreading the magic of mindfulness. Take care, my friend, and I'll see you next time.